now. Okay, so we're recording on the study group for AMP Davis 121 on 9/28. And we're talking about this is lab 4, right, ladies?
5, I think.
Lab 5, which is the histology part 2. Okay, we'll see how that goes. All right, so do you remember what these little fibers are called?
I didn't write that part down. I'm not sure if it's on. I'm looking.
Are they the Sharpies ones?
Oh, yeah, the
Fibers,
Sharpies.
yes.
Yeah.
They're kind of like little anchors to hold the periosteum to the bone tissue. What about number 6?
It's some kind of blood vessel, right?
Yeah, it's something canal.
Oh, it's not the interstitial lamella.
The interstitial lamella would be these that are between the rings, kind of these little guys in here.
Okay.
So there's
Okay.
the layers. So this is one of the canals.
Okay.
This is the central canal, right?
Which one's the central?
Number 4.
Okay, the ones that go up and down.
Oh, I'm sorry. Number 3. Number 3 is pointing to canal. 4 is pointing to the osteocyte.
It's okay.
Yeah. So central canal is 3. You guys, if you need to look it up, you can. I'm looking it up too to make sure. I think I want to make sure that I'm right in how I'm identifying it.
Okay.
I have like so many drawings and notes and stuff. I can't even find anything. She changed the format a little bit from last fall.
Oh, she did.
Yeah, just the way it's laid out. So there's, it's oriented differently because she was having trouble with people not being able to see the images for some reason. So she just made them a PDF file instead of a Word document, and seems to be working out a little better. A couple of people are still having trouble. That one's called the perforating canal or Volkmann's canal.
Okay.
Perforating might make sense because it like perforates through the periosteum and through, kind of comes in from the side like a perforation.
Yeah.
So that might help.
That is helpful.
I don't know if she'll ask you about that one, but yeah, the ones that run kind of horizontally would be the perforating canal. And then let's see. Do you know what number 7 is? I'm not sure if you guys have that one labeled.
That one is the endomysium. Is that what it is?
Yeah, the endosteum.
Osteum.
Yeah,
okay.
hold the mysium for when you get to muscles.
Muscles, right?
Because you'll see the same, same prefixes, but with mysium instead of osteum.
Okay, so the number 5 is periosteum then, right?
Yeah, periosteum.
And 7 is endosteum. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. Here, let me look at this. Let me show you this one. So this is the osteocyte, right? In the lacuna that we were talking about. The canaliculi are these things that run sort of hard, like perpendicular to the rings. And they kind of bring nutrients and other materials.
What do they look like? I can't really tell.
They're kind of little hair-like channels. Can you see? Did it
okay, yes.
Yeah,
They're the ones that are going like
that look hairy. They're going perpendicular to the canals. Does that make sense?
This is what I'm gonna do really quick. So is it like here, like these little lines?
Yes.
Like here, like I'm putting them in purple, if you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does that make sense, Leah? I don't know if she's there or not.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
It's okay. I
Yeah,
just wanted to make sure that you.
this one kind of is a blown up image of that, so they kind of run, perpendicular to the canals, and they feed into these little lacuna. So it's kind of like little tributaries that come in to the lacunas in a way.
Okay.
Okay. So yes, you should know either of those views of bone. She didn't talk a lot about spongy bone. I was trying to see did she have a picture of spongy bone?
So I'm not sure that she had a picture of it, but I do have some information on spongy bone
Okay.
somewhere here,
Okay,
maybe.
so tell us the difference. Can you see this image of a long bone?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So the compact bone would be where in this image?
The compact bone. Oh, I mean, you mean where it says compact bone, like in the middle there?
Well, yeah, so it's in this diaphysis, the shaft of the bone.
Okay.
So the compact bone is kind of the mature bone, that's fully formed and hardened. The compact or the spongy bone kind of is the ends. If I forget, there was something I read not long ago. If we had all compact bone and no spongy bone, we'd weigh something like 3 times what we do because
Oh my
it's so
goodness.
much heavier. So it's kind of like nature's way of assuring we are, don't have too much density to our
Mhm.
bodies, to our skeletal system. It's
Is
kind
the
of
spongy
amazing.
bone why, like if your bone breaks, is that typically where it breaks in the spongy bone, or is it more of the compact that makes it easier?
It does tend to break. I mean, you can get breaks in compact bone, but these bones do tend to break in these areas, kind of at the connection between the spongy and the compact.
Mhm.
People that get arthritis, it's the wearing down of cartilage, and sometimes the spongy bone areas and the ends of the long bone they're going to erode.
I have osteoarthritis, so
Yeah,
it's
so it's
nice.
usually in the joint areas,
Yeah.
where it meets other bones that it's gonna have those issues. Yeah, it's a
Mhm.
good question.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm just trying to think like spongy, since it's probably not as hard or as dense
right.
as
It
compact bone.
That's right. It's spongy, like a sponge. It's sort of in between. It's not a liquid. It is a solid, but it's like airy, I guess you could say.
Kind of like foam almost, maybe, but it's just a little bit denser.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Yeah. And it has some pliability because compact bone, especially in older people, tends to get more brittle. So an older person that gets like a compound fracture, that's often in the compact bone, and it's almost like a twisting action and the bones are just more brittle. So so you can get breaks either place, but yeah, spongy's lighter. What are the units in spongy bone? It starts with a T. Did she talk about
The
that?
trabeculae.
Trabeculae. Whereas the osteons are in the compact bone. I
Okay.
realized you don't think about bone having a blood supply, but this whole center cavity is, vascularized. There's blood vessels, there's marrow, there's, a lot of nerve activity in there. And I didn't really ever firmly, wasn't ever really firmly convinced of that until I had dry socket I had a tooth pulled.
Mhm.
And it was the worst nerve pain I have ever had in my life. Like it was worse than childbirth.
Oh, wow.
It was crazy. And I said to my husband, I said, well, that just, confirms the fact that there's blood and nerve supply to your bones, because it
Oh,
was
for
the
sure.
socket itself that was pained. It's crazy.
Right. Oh, I'm sorry that happened. That's
Yeah.
awful.
It was one
Um,
of those things that I don't want to repeat.
So the compact bone tissue, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just
Yeah, you're
wanted to
fine.
ask this before I forgot. The
Mhm.
compact bone tissue with the osteons,
That's right.
that slide, it's about 3 slides down. Is
Yeah.
that what is inside of the compact bone?
That's what's inside the compact bone. exactly.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
if she would show you this picture and say, identify the tissue, you want to make sure you say compact bone. She'll probably say, identify the tissue and, be specific. And she means, compact bone. Like,
Okay.
so you want to say that compact bone tissue.
Okay. So then slide number 7, the middle of it, the compact bone is that right there. That's what's in the middle of compact bone, that picture.
This right here, yes, that's correct. This number 10, right?
Is inside.
What would, if you did a cross section right through here, through
It would
the
look like
long bone, it would look like that.
look
Exactly.
like number 10. It would have all of the osteons, the
Yeah, you can
osteocytes.
kind of see it a little bit better over here
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
right, a little bit. And then
Okay,
that shows you how the periosteum and the Sharpie's fibers are oriented too.
that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. So I think bone, I think you guys are pretty good on bone. If there was anything, in the lab itself that you were confused about, give a holler, okay?
I was pretty good on the lab. I'm not sure about Leah, but blood, I'm trying to remember. So the just like not the blue ones, the regular circular ones, those are red blood cells, right?
Yes, that's right.
The ones that are the leukocytes, isn't that what they're called? The white blood
Yes,
cells?
right.
Okay, the ones that are highlighted, and then the little tiny ones are the platelets.
That's right.
Okay.
And she could ask you a function. What's the primary function of red blood cells?
Does it have to do with carrying like oxygen
It
and
does,
stuff?
right. Yeah, so and you haven't really gotten it to yet, but later, well, at some point you probably studied, circulatory system, maybe not for a little while, but the whole goal is to pump blood, through the body, and when it comes back, it's going to go to the lungs to get oxygenated. So that's
Right.
the purpose, and that's why blood cells, they're called
Biscuit.
biconcave. They're like little bowls.
Yeah.
These are not nuclei. Blood cells don't have a nucleus. And
Okay.
a lot of people will, like in microbiology class, like she'll show this slide on a lab practical, and people are trying to say that this is a certain kind of bacteria. Like they just think it's a bacteria, which is weird because bacteria don't have nuclei either. But yeah, so you'll see them, and they'll usually have this coloration. They'll look reddish. And what's the purpose of these guys, the white blood cells?
They kill like bacteria invaders, basically.
Right.
They protection.
Right. Fight off
the-
infection.
Like
They're
if
part of
you're sick, you'll have a higher WBC, white blood
right,
count.
right. And you'll feel like the swelling in the lymph nodes and things like that because they're, inflamed and the
They're
white blood
working
cells are
to they have those, are they the ones that have like the pseudopods to like reach out?
Some
Not
of them do, yep, and they do like this gobbling routine. They do the cell transport that involves like the phagocytosis where they're gobbling up things. Yeah, it's kind of amazing, really.
So
And
the phagocytes, they come with their they also have like the is it the
yes,
macrophages,
the macrophages, yes.
neutrophils? Is that what
Neutrophils, yeah, and you don't have to know the specifics of them yet.
Okay.
You will later on, but as long as you know the white, like she won't ask you what specific white blood cell these are.
Okay.
But she may ask you if what they are, and you can just say leukocytes or white blood cells. That would be fine.
And then just a function.
And then the function, and then these are platelets. What's the job of a platelet?
I know this. Hold on. They form elements of blood that play a role in blood. Oh, the clotting factor,
The
basically.
clotting factors, right? So if somebody has like a low platelet count, that means that they're going to have a hard time with their blood clotting. A lot of people are on blood thinners.
Yep.
So
like
they do a clotting factor reading
PPI,
on certain medication.
PPINR.
Yeah,
Like a PPINR for Coumadin.
you got it.
Yeah.
So they're looking to make sure that those numbers, and I don't know what the units are, but they, they're in expected to be in a certain range. And if they're not, then they modify the medicine or their diet. My mother's on Coumadin, which is
Warfarin.
the blood, warfarin. So she goes through that. And the biggest thing there is like vitamin K will make their blood too thick, which I think is really interesting. So she can't eat like really dark green leafy vegetables that are, you think about it, they're supposed to be so good for you, but if you're on blood thinners, they're not necessarily. So
Because I believe, I could be wrong. I get them mixed up usually, but warfarin, the antidote to that, I believe, is vitamin K. Or it's protein, or I'm sorry, oh my gosh, why can't I think of what it's called? There's an antidote for heparin and there's an antidote for warfarin. One of them is
Okay.
vitamin K and one of them is
I think warfarin is vitamin K because that's what she's on. And if her blood is too thin,
yes.
then she stops taking vitamin K, modifies her diet, and they may decrease, let me think, they may decrease her medication because it's thinning too much, I guess.
Protamine sulfate is
Okay.
the antidote for heparin. Vitamin
Okay.
K is the antidote for warfarin.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. I learned.
So it reverses it basically.
Okay.
Kind of like Narcan would reverse like
Okay.
a fentanyl overdose or
Okay.
something like that. Yeah.
Gotcha. It's amazing. Very interesting.
Mhm.
Okay. So yeah, so know the three, be able to identify those and know their functions. That's just more of the same, pretty much. This tells the different types. I really don't think you need to know those at this point. The specific.
Just know different, like which ones are the
I think
white
so.
blood cells,
Just
red blood
in
cells.
the slide, just know which are which. Yeah.
Okay.
Are you guys using the APR?
Yeah, I have some. It's just sometimes I don't know about Leah, but I have a really hard time with like some of the tissues, like I can't tell the difference. What is the difference between simple cuboidal or simple columnar and just regular columnar or cuboidal or epithelial, tissue, whatever? Like what, I can't tell the difference between simple, I guess, more layers maybe.
Yes, that's really, what you identify basically two things, the shape, so cuboidal, columnar, those are usually fairly easy to tell. But then, if it's simple, if there's only one layer. So in places like, I don't know, the kidney tubules as an example, or in lung tissue where diffusion has to take place very readily, there's going to be just one layer, so they're going to be simple. But like our skin, where we have a lot of abrasion and friction, areas like that are usually stratified, meaning multiple layers. So yeah, you first figure out the shape and then you look at the number of layers.
That makes sense because with our skin, if we cut it or something, it's not a big deal.
Right, because there's more being made all the time. Exactly. And you have multiple layers of stratified epithelial tissue. Yeah, the one thing good about this week's stuff is you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about the simple versus stratified.
Oh, okay, good.
Because that you already tested on that stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So we won't worry about that for now. Okay. What's the liquid part of blood called?
Plasma.
Okay. And it's primarily fluid, it's liquid. There's not much in the way. There really aren't formed elements in the plasma. The formed elements are the ones that we just looked at, the white, the red, and the platelets. Right. Anything else about blood I wanted to ask you? I think we're pretty good on blood. Okay, let's go to muscle. I think the muscles are cool.
Muscle is far more complex, I think, than the other ones, maybe.
Well, it's harder. I like that she has this broken up into two sections because I always get, like if she just would show a slide of this and you couldn't see the name, I get that and regular connective tissue confused because they're both kind of compacted. I've learned, just from looking at a bunch of them that the smooth muscle is more sort of tapered at the ends. It's what's called spindle shaped. and they have one big nuclei in each cell. So it kind of becomes a little more apparent, but I used to get those confused all the time.
Well, I get confused because how I can't, when it says like nuclei in a cell, I'm looking like, when I look for a cell, I look for a round,
Yeah, yeah, and these
object.
are
Like
long.
where?
Yeah, and these are long, fibrous. Yeah, these are long and skinny cells. Right. Yeah, it's
Right.
kind of
So how do I know
one.
where the cell starts and ends? That's kind of
Okay. Well, here, let's look at them a second. Um, I don't like that picture as much. Let's start. Well, what are the three types, first of all?
skeletal,
Mhm.
smooth, and cardiac.
Good. And which two are striated?
So skeletal striated, cardiac striated.
Mhm. And smooth is not. So let's look at smooth first. So smooth, no striations. There's just this one, it has a big nuclei right in the middle of the cell. And the cell is it's hard to see end to end, but basically from like say here to here would be a cell, and you can see them kind of taper in on the ends.
I don't see it.
I mean, the nuclei, I tell it by there's a nuclei in each cell. So each and this, but it's not round. It's not a round cell. It's a long fiber,
Like cylindrical.
cylindrical, kind of long and tubular and tapered at the ends.
See, when I look at this, if they say, does it have striations? I automatically think it does because of like the
Okay.
long strand. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Strand.
Okay. I gotcha. Well, look at that versus this.
Yeah, that makes,
And now
yeah.
this is at a higher power probably too, but these are the striations. The striations kind of run perpendicular.
Okay. Oh,
And
okay.
I mean, think of their purpose is to allow, well, it's there's several reasons why they're striated, but there's a lot more activity in these as far as contraction and expansion and all of that. So they're kind of like units of contractibility, I guess you could say, whereas the smooth muscles, they still go through a lot of contractions and everything, but um they're a bit more passive, I guess you could say. I don't know how else to say it other than that.
Well, I can tell the difference with the cardiac muscle,
Mhm.
if there's a slide of that, because I can see the intercalated
Yes,
disc.
very good. Yep, and that's the giveaway for them. The other thing you're going to see is this, see how there's some space in between them?
Mhm.
There's some branching going on. But yes, those intercalated discs, that's the giveaway for cardiac muscle.
Where is the branching?
You can kind of see it up here, like if you could follow these back, they probably join together over here, like under this eyeball.
Okay.
I'm trying to see a bit. Like kind of here, see how they're together here, and then they kind of, it's like a fork in the road almost going back
Okay.
this way. But the intercalated disc, that's the giveaway, and they're striated also, right? The
Mhm.
intercalated discs are kind of almost like a weld that holds the cells together end to end. Think about what cardiac muscle does, right? Think how much pressure it's under.
Mhm.
So they're almost like reinforcements that hold, that keep the cells from kind of rupturing or blowing out.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, kind of interesting. The
It is.
nuclei are very prominent, right?
Mhm. And they're also just one nucleus. What is it? Be like
One
unique
nucleus
nucleus. Yeah, one
per cell, correct. Yes.
Okay.
Whereas if you look at the skeletal muscle, see how the nuclei are kind of pressed out to along the edges,
Mhm.
and there's a bunch of them.
Mhm.
And so that's another giveaway. They're multinucleated.
Okay.
There's also a lot of mitochondria in skeletal muscle. Why would that be?
Does it have to do with protein or no?
Your warm has to
Mm,
do with, it has to do with energy production. because
The
mitochondria
ATP,
make
mitochondria is the powerhouse, and
right.
your skeletal muscles involve movement and all of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they
so-
need energy to move.
Right, exactly. You got it. I mean, I don't know if she'll ask that, but I could see her asking something like that, where it's like, okay, well, I know what mitochondria are and I know what skeletal muscle do. So the process you just went through, that would be a great answer.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I
And
never know
as,
what to
as
say on the
quickly as
test.
you can say, in as few words as you can say it.
I always find myself writing like
I
two
always did.
sentences
I
or
always
something.
did the same thing. And then more than once, like if I would have just stopped after one sentence, it would have been a correct answer. But then something in my second sentence was slightly not spot on. So I'd lose like half a point or something. It's like, if
Yes,
you just
yeah,
wanted
I
to
do that.
just stop writing, either close my mouth or stop writing.
The short answer will suffice.
The short answers will suffice. Exactly. Yeah, she doesn't expect like 5 sentences or something. Let's see what else. Which ones are voluntary and which ones are involuntary?
So, cardiac and smooth are involuntary, skeletal involuntary.
Right. Like you can control movement of things. I mean, some things are reflexes and you can't really control them and they involve your skeletal muscles, but for the most part, we can control the movement of our muscles.
Right.
I don't know if you can hear my dog howling. It's pathetic.
Not really, maybe just a little bit, but I have my son upstairs. He's a gamer and he's upstairs yelling at his TV, so
great.
it's fine.
Oh, great.
I didn't know if you could
Okay.
hear that. I'm sitting here
So
like, oh my gosh.
she's muted. Smooth muscles, skeletal muscles you're going to find attached to bones, right? By what tissue, by the way? What attaches muscle to bone?
Tendons.
Tendons, good.
Hi, Leah.
Yeah, there she is. And that is dense regular connective tissue, right?
Yeah,
Think about
I'm
again all the stress that those tissues are under in order to.
I am horrible with the dense. I don't understand the dense, regular, dense, irregular. I honestly, my brain
Yeah,
is just
well,
like,
I can't remember them either. I remember that one just because I always think about chicken. Like when you cut into a chicken, like where the wing joins to the body, that's dense connective tissue, and it's real heavy, coarse, like heavy fibers that are very strong.
Okay.
So I kind of remember it that way, like the collagen fibers make up the majority of that, and they're very hefty. But yeah, I don't remember like, I think the irregular is in the dermal layer, if I vaguely remember that. But yeah, unless you're really using it routinely, it's hard to remember those.
Yeah, so I hope she doesn't ask it on the test, like,
I don't think she'll ask it on this one.
because I'm gonna be like, I don't know.
She might ask you like, tendon is a muscle to bone and ligament is bone to bone. I think, because I think she talked about that this week, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
That was
So
the question.
anything that she talked about this week is fair game.
Okay.
And then this, yeah, see, there we got those endos and peris and epis, right?
Yes.
A little bit different because the peri refers to the end is around the fascicle, and the endo is around the individual muscle fiber, and then the epi is this outer that kind of joins to the tendon. So I mean, it would be fair for her to show you that diagram too and ask you to identify something. Like she might say, what is this fascicle? What is that? And then what's the membrane that surrounds a fascicle?
The perimysium.
Perimysium, right.
Okay.
There's the tendon and ligament thing. So that would be fair game.
What about the diagram, like the picture next to that? Would you think she would ask that on a test?
This one?
Yeah.
Does she have you draw that?
I don't think, wait a minute, let me look.
I know you labeled the one on the left.
Yes.
I would almost think, I don't think she would give you that one, but you could probably decipher it, just kind of it's basically a cross section. It's like you're looking through, you know, if you this cut across the middle, one of those fascicles.
Okay, yep,
I think she'd probably tend towards the one on the left,
okay.
but you could apply that knowledge to the one on the right if you needed to, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the muscle fiber, I can see that. I can see the blood vessel, the perimysium. So basically, it's just like a fascicle cut down the middle.
Exactly, cut across, like a cross section. Yep.
Okay.
Like cutting across a piece of meat, basically, is what it is, because
Yeah.
muscle's meat, you know, meat is
Yeah.
muscle. So yeah, like you can kind of see what we would call marbling in a piece of meat,
Mm-hmm.
those which would be that the white sections around.
Mm-hmm. That
So
makes
yeah,
sense.
again, related to something, you know. I related to chicken. You might relate it to something else.
That makes sense.
Okay. And then this one, I think this one's a little trickier. She could ask you about this. This is basically where the muscle and the nerve are joined together, right? Because the nerve's going to send signals either to another nerve or to a muscle, and if it's to a muscle, it's called the neuromuscular junction, which is, I've got like the sun decided to shine right in my face.
That's
In
all
the
right.
winter, it comes like directly in the window above my desk. So I usually have to put something up there, and I didn't put something up there yet because it's still early.
Sorry.
Okay, so you can see this is kind of a cross section of, and when you get into the muscular system, this will make more sense. Like you don't really need to know all these, like the banding, the names of those bands for this test, I would say, but you should know, you know, like this is the myelin sheath, where those kind of invert, like where they come together with the next section of myelin is called the node of Ranvier. Like those sections you should know. Those would be parts of the nerve tissue.
Okay.
Um, what's the job of the myelin?
So the myelin sheath, hold on, I'm thinking because I think of so my dad had he had a stroke and then later found out that he had MS,
Oh, wow.
and the disease process is like, I guess I don't want to say eating away, but I guess to
Yeah, degrading
is
or
degrading. Yes,
yeah,
it's his myelin sheath is degenerating, I think is the word.
degenerating. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good one.
Which is affecting his the coordination,
Okay.
his movements, he's
Oh,
all of those things. So I'm
okay.
thinking the myelin sheath, uh is it like it protects
Yeah.
your muscles, your
It's on the nerve itself. It's
the
well,
nerve.
I always think of it as like an insulation on a wire. If
Okay.
a wire
Oh,
wasn't insulated, the the electricity would just be like flying around all over the place, right?
that makes sense.
It wouldn't be directed towards its ultimate goal of, you know, providing power to something. It would be like sparking. Like if you have a wire that lost its insulation, it's sparking. It's kind of the same idea with a nerve that's
Yeah.
not, if the myelin is damaged or didn't form correctly,
Right.
the yeah, it's almost like a sparking effect. So they get like unnecessary or kind of fictitious nerve impulses, I guess you could say, like, you know, weird.
Well, he has neuropathy now, so I'm
Yeah,
wondering if
so
that makes sense.
yeah, and because that outer layer isn't available to protect
Protect that
it,
nerve.
so
Yeah.
then the nerve tissue itself is getting damaged. Oh, that's a
Okay.
shame.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, it's okay. It
So
happens.
in the node of Ranvier is kind of like, and we'll talk more about this when we get into nervous system. It's like a gap that the nerve impulse will jump. And we always use the analogy of if you are trying to get a basketball down the court, is it faster to pass it from one player to another or for the one guy to dribble it the whole way? It's going to be faster to pass it, right? So
Right,
it's sort of that idea, like the myelin, the node of Ranvier kind of allows for a passing. It's like it jumps the gap, so to speak. But if you
Okay.
know what myelin is, you know the Schwann cells are the specialized cells in the peripheral nervous system that make myelin. So
So that's not a glial cell, right? Because that was on one of the
it
homework
it
questions.
is a glial cell. Yes.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
one of the types of glial cells. It's not the neuron itself. It's one of the glial cells that's in the peripheral nervous system, and then you have glial cells that are in the central nervous system also.
I think that was the question, if it was a glial cell in the central nervous system, but it's not, it's
Okay.
peripheral.
Okay.
Okay,
And
that
that
makes
was in
sense.
your homework? Okay.
Yeah, something like that. Something along those lines. I just knew the answer was false and I
Okay.
wasn't
That's
sure.
good.
Yeah.
Let's go. Wonder. Let's see if there's anything else in this neuromuscular. Where's the nerve? The nerve cell itself, I was trying to find. Okay, those are coming up yet. Okay. Well, we want to do this one?
Sure. Leah, do you wanna?
Go ahead.
I
Let's
don't
just
know.
start up here. You guys, you can just say it, either one of
Okay.
you.
Tendon,
Okay.
the epimysium,
Mm-hmm.
Endomysium.
Let me make sure. Yeah, because that's around an individual fiber, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then this one.
That's the muscle fiber.
Mhm.
The that's also the endomysium.
Yes.
The fascicle that is wrapped by the paramysium.
And
The
then-
paramysium.
okay, good. Leah, are you good with those? I'm not sure. She may be.
I'm here.
Oh, you're multitasking, aren't you? Is your little
Not really. I'm having a hard time focusing.
Are you
Um,
okay?
yes, yeah. I just usually don't get on like when I have my children
Yeah, it's hard.
awake and
Yeah,
such.
it's hard.
Um,
It's
But at
okay.
least it's
You're here.
recorded. It's recorded, so you can watch
Right.
it later.
And you're
yes.
here. That's the important thing. So even if a few things sink in, or you refresh your memory about a few things, that's all, better than not doing it, right? Okay, let's match these. And these here's another place where you can break the words down and it might make sense, right? So
So
like
sarcos, she said, means flesh. Yeah, sarcos.
okay.
means flesh. So the okay, so the sarcoplasmic reticulum is going to be the smooth ER.
Good. Yeah, and it sounds like endoplasmic reticulum, right? It's just
Right.
sarco as a prefix.
Yeah.
Okay.
The
And then
sarcolemma is the plasma membrane of the cell.
okay. And I kind of just like the M's and the M's in membrane. I don't know how I remember that one.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
And then the way that I can remember sarcoplasm is oh my gosh, I completely just lost what I was gonna say.
Were you going to say cytoplasm or
Cytoplasm, yes.
that's
because
how I
the
remember.
cytosol is the fluid, right? Inside the cytoplasm, is that what it
Yes.
is?
Mm-hmm.
So the sarcoplasm is the fluid. So
Right.
cytoplasm, sarcoplasm, fluid. I don't know. That's just
It's
the way my brain.
intracellular fluid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there, you might not know, maybe there's one you don't really feel confident about. So eliminate those that you do
Ones that you
know,
know.
match them up, and then what you have left, if you have to guess, you're guessing among fewer.
Right. But that makes sense. The sarcolemma plasma membrane,
Just
because
the
of, yeah,
M's. Yeah.
that's a good way to remember that.
And then hopefully you got to do your drawings. Let's look at nerve tissue. Where do you find nerve tissue?
Like in the nerves, the neurons, the brain, just the nerves. I don't know.
Yeah, the brain and the spinal cord, right? Those are your central nervous system. And I always think about that, well, it's in your head. So it's like it's in the middle of your body pretty much. And then the
Right.
nerves would be the peripheral nervous system, which run out to your extremities and to your organs and all of that. Okay. I think nerve cells are cool to look at. I
When
think
you think of peripheral, I think of peripheral vision, like off to the
yeah,
side,
exactly. Yep. Surrounding or
Yeah.
surfacey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So then she could have this slide or something similar, and you're going to know that it's nerve tissue. How?
The neurons in it.
Yeah, the neurons are very distinctive. They're kind of, I guess, star shaped, you could say.
Mhm.
What are these parts that if it were a star, that are the points of the star?
They're neuroglial.
Well, no, just like this is
Oh, I'm
your
sorry.
neuron, the pointy parts of the neuron.
Or the dendrites. Is
Those are
that
the dendrites. Good. And what's their
Sorry.
job? What do they do?
Dendrites, they receive information.
Good. Yeah. So they're the receivers. They're getting the information from another nerve cell or from an incoming signal from someplace, from some other part of the body. This is the nucleus, what's its job?
The nucleus is the DNA of the cell, right? It has the DNA of the cell, and it
Well, in a nerve cell, that's right. And so it's like the control center, just like it would be
I
in
was
any
just
other
gonna say
cell.
that. I couldn't think of the
Like,
word control center.
kind of like, yeah, it runs the show, so to speak.
Like it tells the cell what to do.
Yeah, it kind of relays it gives direction to everything else. Yeah, so control center, that's what I like to say. Then these long things, what are those?
Is that the axon?
The axon. And what's the axon do?
It's sends information. It
Right.
communicates, or wait, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and it's going to send either to another nerve cell or to a muscle cell or to a gland. It could send information to any other, tissue pretty much. For, whatever it is, it could be release of hormone, it could be movement, it could be sending an impulse that will be directed to numerous different functions. We'll talk more about those later, but what are these little tiny guys?
Those are the glial cells,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. And what's their job?
Hold on. I'm sure I have that. No, I don't actually. Wait.
I think you said it earlier what they do.
That they support?
Yeah, they're like the support system. They're like the pit crew. If the nerve cells are the drivers, the glial cells are like the pit crew. And there's a whole bunch more of those than there are the neurons, right?
So
Takes
yeah,
a
so
lot of
are they
glial cells.
supporting this? They're supporting the
They're
cell?
supporting, they provide nutrients, they help, well, they make materials like the myelin sheath. They, depending on where they are, they have different functions.
Okay.
There's several different types. When we get into the nervous system, we'll talk about those. You don't need to know those right now. Just know
Okay.
that glial cells are support, like nutrition and support, basically.
Nutrition and support. Okay. Let me write. I have support written down, but I'm going to write down nutrition as well, just in case she asks for.
And then she could ask you about this. This is just kind of a, model interpretation. I think this is a little easier to label. What did I guess you technically should know these parts, the terminals, the axon terminals, the axon hillock, which is like this sort of wedge shaped area.
Okay.
The initial segment is just the first part of the axon that, right outside of the dendrite.
And the myelin sheath and the axon, I can see
Yes,
that protecting the rest of it. Now, is that's the nerve right in there?
Yeah, that's the neuron. So this is the axon that is wrapped with the myelin sheath, right? Like the wire within insulation, right?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if it's wrapped around a nerve
It-
or
it's wrapped around the axon portion of the nerve cell. Yep.
okay, okay.
Yep, of the cell that, you know, would have the dendrite, and the dendrite's not myelinated. The axon is myelinated.
Okay, that's good to know.
Node of Ranvier we talked about. You notice this endo again, and now instead of endomysium or endoosteum, we have endoneurium.
Okay.
So these prefixes are going to keep showing up in all these different systems.
Okay.
Uh-oh, I'm not sure what I'm doing to that thing. You're
Sorry.
changing your slide. That's just another orientation, I think.
Mhm.
Oh, what are these little guys called? I don't know if she'll ask you about these things that are blue.
Are those the glial cells?
Those are called Nissl
Oh,
substances or
Nissl
Nissl
subs-
bodies.
Okay.
And I'm trying to remember. I don't remember what they do specifically. Let me see. I have to look up what they do, because I don't remember. I don't know if I don't think we really need to know the function of those at this point. I think
Okay.
you need to know what's on your, you know, the questions, the function of the dendrites, the cell body, the axon, be able to identify them, the neurons and the neuroglial cells. What's it mean that, what two types of, or I'm sorry, of the two types, the neurons and the neuroglial, the neurons are excitable. What does that mean?
They generate action potential.
Excellent. Yep. Sure, you know that. And I think that's the end of the tissues. Yeah, so I mean, you can go back through there and study from those, or if you think APR is helpful, go to that. I didn't look at what's the website? Keep forgetting the website that that our visiting student gave us a couple weeks ago, that you shared with the
Oh
class.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure they have some interesting stuff to study from too.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
They're wonderful usually. So
Is there anything in the lecture portion?
I
Lectures,
think we need a whole separate study group for that.
I know. We need more time for sure. Oh, we didn't get to your case study either. Oh crap. Well, I have a few more. I have like 15 minutes till the micro group comes in. If you guys do you want to look at that for a few minutes? Do you have
Leah, would you prefer we talk about like some of the lecture stuff, or do you want the case study? I think we are pretty good on, but
Okay. Do you feel like you've figured that all out? Let me just look at it real quickly.
well, I already submitted mine, so
Oh, you did. Okay.
yeah.
All right. Okay. So then
So that's up to Leah.
you went through the whole process. So are you guys good on the transcription translation? You probably are, because you went through the case study, right?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't honestly, I think we just got confused with all the letters. Like it was just very confusing, that part.
Okay. Well, if there's a mutation, where does that take place? On what molecule? Does it take place in the DNA or the RNA is where I'm trying.
It would be the DNA,
RNA.
right?
On the DNA. So the mutation takes place on the DNA, like probably 95% of the time. There are situations where the RNA can get messed up, and there can be a problem with the process of making proteins, because the RNA malfunctions, but normally a mutation is going to be on the DNA. So when the RNA goes to pick up the code from the DNA, it's miscoding because the DNA is miscoded, right?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of mutation is going to be the most pronounced? In other words, a point mutation or a frame shift mutation. She talk about those? I think she did.
I think
I
so.
don't remember those.
Is it the point?
It's typically going to be frame shift, because in point mutation, there's just one nucleotide that's affected. Sometimes you don't even know there's a mutation because it can code for the same protein. Whereas in frame shift, something is either added, one nucleotide is either added or deleted typically, which shifts everything over after that. So instead of having the original sequence of amino acids that are made, it changes everything after it. So it's generally going to be a lot more, have a lot more consequence. It's, going to affect the organism much more. I can't remember if she talked about those. Let me see. There's a lot of material in chapter 3. There's no doubt about that, right?
There's a lot of what? I'm
A
sorry.
lot of material in chapter 3.
Yeah. I tend to struggle more with the lecture than I do the lab, I think.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So we need to spend more time on lecture next time. Is there anything, did you guys do there's a concept map for cells?
So
I think that would be useful to do, that relates to cell structures.
there is something that Leah and I saw in the content that is not loading for us. I
Okay.
don't know if anyone else is having that issue. It's the interactive. Hold on, let me find it in the lecture. It's in the assignments, I think, or no, it's not. Is it?
Oh,
It's in the supplemental stuff.
Sorry. Yeah,
and the supplemental stuff.
it was the interactive cell structure and functions.
Oh,
It says, well, mine at least says Adobe Flash Player is no longer supported. I'm not sure what Leah says, but it doesn't load. So we were unable to even try that.
okay. Did you let her know that?
I did not. I completely
Okay.
forgot about it, honestly, until just
Well,
now.
how about drop her an email and just let her know what you're finding? Because 2 reasons. She'll know that you're using the materials or trying to, and it's not an assignment, it's supplemental, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, maybe there's something she needs to relink it or something. Maybe the link changed, or who knows.
Okay, yeah, we can do.
I'll have to go back and look. I'm not sure. I don't think I've seen that particular resource. But there's also a couple of concept maps that might be worth doing. And did you see it's called the cell transport worksheet? Did you see that one?
Yeah.
That I think would be useful to do, because it matches like a term with a definition, and then it shows scenarios where you have to decide if it's hyper, or isotonic. I think that would be worth doing. It's called Cell Transport Worksheet. That was probably in the supplemental material too.
Yeah.
All I see, I see the nucleic acid protein synthesis in class worksheet. I see the cell concept map, the organelle concept map,
Okay.
membrane organ concept map. I don't see.
You don't see one that says cell transport worksheet?
No. I don't know. Leah, did you see that?
I wonder if that might be in. I'm gonna stop sharing here, or stop recording.